In where?
In Manila.
Yeah, I am in Manila. Quezon City,
I
Manila.
was going to say the thriller in Manila.
Well, obviously, that sounds about right. That sounds summing it up nicely.
And then we've got the Enrique Iglesias from Ireland.
We're off and running, so you could just do the introduction if you want, Rob. So over to you,
And
Rob.
then introducing the Thunder from Down Under.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, that's a good
Seamus.
Your missus.
Look, I can't do it to the level of what
Well, we're off and running,
666 game.
So get in there, get started.
So tonight on the pod, welcome to the See You Next Thursday podcast. Today on the pod, we have the Enrique Iglesias from Ireland. Bazza.
Hey, everybody.
The next who's taking part in the Thriller in Manila Part 2, Ed 001.
That's definitely me, sort of.
That's you, Trish.
And very next of all, we have the most honourable bachelor in Merseyside.
That'd
Billy.
be me. Good evening, everybody.
And last but not least, the most handsome of them all, the Thunder
Oh, you
from
said
Down
mentioning
Under.
me again.
Guy Sala.
Right, so all the introductions are done.
What
are we starting with, boys?
We don't need our bid
I'm
anymore,
sorry.
do we? We can get rid of him. Rob's
I'm
taking
sorry I
over.
couldn't do it to the level. I'm sorry that I couldn't do it to the level that you can, so I'm just warming the seat for you.
No, yours
That
was
was
much
fine.
better. That's it, we've sacked him. Sorry, Abid, don't bother coming in. You're not needed
45
anymore.
is in the post.
Yeah.
Right, what are we starting with, Trish?
Right. I think first off, the main story at the moment has to be the signing of Erling Haaland, doesn't it, by City?
Yeah, I personally think that's a great signing. I think they've needed a centre forward. They were going to get Kane last year, never come off. And I think they're going to be even more dangerous with a good centre forward, which he looks like. You can't guarantee anything really, but he does look a player and a really good finisher. And the chances they create, you'd think he's going to improve their side. I still think Jack Grealish was a bad buy for City, and maybe he might unload him. I would if I was him, but he doesn't seem to have done the business. But I think Haaland will.
Interesting. You don't think the injuries and the fact that he only scores against the, he's a bit of a flat trap bully, got a terrible first touch. Basically, he's Lukaku, but young. So you don't think that's an
I think
issue
he's a bit better than
when he's playing?
Lukaku. I think he's got a better first touch than Lukaku.
It's not
And
really
I
saying
play
much,
the
is
devil
it?
advocate just like Abid usually does when he's on. Because I know he
Go on,
loves to
mate.
play the devil's advocate. When you're
Go on,
signing Erling Haaland, as much as he has his injury issues, he is going to guarantee you goals. If City, Tris, I expect you to fire back because I know that's what you're good at, and I love hearing your arguments. And I love hearing your point, that you usually make. But when you're signing Erling Haaland, who is arguably one of the top, you wouldn't say youngster anymore. I know he's still young. But he's made his mark in the Champions League. He's obviously scored a lot of goals in the Bundesliga, which I know at the end of the day is the Bundesliga. But when you're signing Erling Haaland, you're going to be guaranteed goals. Now, if he can get himself fit, and that's a big question because he's picking up a lot of injuries at such a young age, that if City look like they're going to win the title now without a proper number 9, or a proper striker, I should say, what are they going to be like if they keep a similar-ish team but add Erling Haaland on top?
Well, what I'm going to say to that
Yeah.
is, I think Kane, I could see it because he can play the creative role as well as being the attacking force and score goals. Haaland can't do that. He's not a good link player at all. He's not a player that fits in with the way City play for me. So I'm not so sure it does improve them. I think the reason why they win, they're likely to win the league is because of the way they play, and I think it might not be as big an improvement as you think. Aguero was a goal scorer, but he could link play. He was a brilliant player as well. I'm just not sure Haaland is the right one. I think they'd have been better off going back. They should have got Kane. That's the thing, because he would be able to fit in the way they play perfectly. I'm really not convinced Haaland's the right choice for them. Though he will score goals, and he'll score lots of goals for City because they create so many chances. I'm just not convinced he actually improves them as a team. If you understand.
My only problem with him is what happened with Kai Havertz and the other lad at Chelsea. Who's the centre forward?
Timo Werner.
Timo Werner. They come with great CVs in the Bundesliga and that, and in Germany, to set they were going to be superstars, and they haven't really cut much ice for me. And I was wondering whether that could be a factor. The Bundesliga is a totally different league to the Premiership, and it mightn't be as easy as what you think. Even though I think he's a good player,
Well, defending in the Bundesliga is appallingly bad.
That's what I'm saying.
When you watch that Sancho who's gone to United. Go and watch his highlight reels, and and defenders are literally diving out of the way of him. I've never seen the likes of it. It's shocking how bad the defending is.
Chris, with his physicality and height, for example, do you think that he can match the defense and defenders of how they play in the Premier League?
Oh yeah, I think he's. I'm not disputing that he's going to fit. He'll fit into the Premier League and he'll score goals, and that's not my problem with him. I think he's fit. He's exactly what exactly a Premier League striker needs to be. Got the strength, the speed, the composure to score goals and that. But he just isn't he isn't a City type player. If you put him in the Chelsea team, I think he'd be sensational.
Do you think that Pep will change anything to accommodate what Haaland can bring to the table?
Well, that's it. He's going to have to, or he's not going to work out. It's going to be the same thing as he did with Ibrahimovic when he bought Zlatan, and it just messed the team up. Didn't work at all. If he doesn't change it, he'll have the same problem where he's going to end up with an unhappy player. And the other thing, this is my main worry about him is, obviously, now Mino's no longer with us, so he's not with Mino any longer. But the fact that he chose him for his agent shows what Haaland's thinking is. His interest is in making as much money as possible, not in being the best player he can be. And I think that's...
So you think maybe if it doesn't work out after a season or two, he could potentially just be like, yep, you know what, I've had my time in England, it's maybe time to go to Spain or something like that.
Well, I just think he's not going to put in the effort on the training pitch to improve that he needs to do. That's why his touch is still not the best. You know what I mean? You look at players like... I always go back to Nedved because he's an easy example to find. He was... By the time he reached the Serie A, you wouldn't know which footed he was. He was totally two-footed. But when his career started, he was completely one-footed. Somebody said to him, you need to learn to use your other foot. So he just put in the time on the training pitch to become just as good with his... I think he was right-footed initially, and he became just as strong with his left foot. And, for a while, he was even better with his left foot. And he had to go back to working on his right foot after after training every day to make it, to equal it out. And that's the kind of effort I just don't see Haaland making. He doesn't improve himself. That's why his touch is off. Lukaku's another one. And he was talking about someone the other day, I got on one of the sites, I can't remember who it was, and they were saying I was saying, yeah, but for me, these players that have these issues, they know they have these issues. Tyrone Mings, another one, poor technique. And they moan about being criticised for when they make mistakes, but they don't go do anything about it. They don't stay back after training to work on the problems with their technique. You know what I mean? Cristiano Ronaldo spent would stay behind for hours to practice his technique. That's why he was the best in the world for a while. You know what I mean? This is what
The only thing
they
that
don't
worries
do.
me,
They'd rather
Chris,
moan.
The only thing that worries me is City are currently 3 points above us. I know I say us as Liverpool, but if I take into account, for example, the fact that they have lost Aguero and they've only added players, for example, they spent 100 mil on Jack Grealish, which in my opinion is a waste, and we all can kind of agree to that to some extent. If, for example, they lose a player which is heavily linked at the moment, which is Gabriel Jesus to Arsenal, who in my opinion isn't the greatest player. He's definitely not a wide forward.
He's not a good player.
He's definitely not a good striker at all. So if they lose someone like him and bring in someone like Haaland, what worries me is the fact that they're already 3 points clear and look very likely to win the.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Yeah, so to bring him in on top of what they already have.
But I don't think
that's being the case of not losing a key player at the end of the window.
Yeah, but
I just think he guarantees them goals.
I think more.
And yeah,
sorry, more important was losing David Silva for me. That's the only one that mattered because he was the kid.
And that's why Chris.
I know what's going on.
Hello. Don't know. There's an awful lot of background noise.
Is this somebody joining in?
Barry, isn't it?
It's me. Hello.
Seamus.
I think he needs an introduction, Rob.
Well, we had a slight discussion earlier, and I think the best way to introduce him is the beast from the east. Introducing Deep, a.k.a. Seamus.
It's more like Seamus, aka Deep now.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Good morning,
Deep.
Seamus.
Oh, it's already
Barry,
back.
Barry,
Hello.
what do you think about Haaland, Barry?
Haaland for me is the first thing I'd say is his injuries. I know they're not major, but they're just little niggles. Minor injuries, whatever you want to call them. But also as well in Germany, don't forget, don't you have a winter break? Isn't there a winter break in Germany?
Yes. It's a proper one.
You've one less competition. I know there's less league games. I don't know how many, but I know there's less league games. And Dortmund.
4 less.
4 less, okay. Thanks, Tris. And Dortmund didn't get knocked out of competitions or Europe early. So coming to the Premiership, it's a long campaign with not much rest, with not much recuperation. With his, I know it's only recently his injury history. I would be a little bit concerned, definitely. Look, is he going to get City goals? Absolutely. There's no denying that. But I don't know. I just don't know if it's going to work out or not.
Right.
And just on his injury history alone, I know it's not serious, but just these little niggles and another thing that Tris said, his first touch, he's not brilliant. He's a good finisher, absolutely. There's no question there. But I don't know. My gut's telling me no.
All right. Okay. That's a fair point.
But
What about you,
I stand to be corrected, obviously.
Billy, what do you think?
What do I think? I think he's a damn good player. I think he'll make a difference. I think they'll be able to rest him at times because when they're playing the likes of the lesser lights, they can put out a side that is still going to be ultra competitive and score goals and entertain because they've got such a good squad. And I think Haaland can be rested for lesser games, shall we say. And I think he's going to be a bit of a star. But that's just my opinion, of course.
And Deeps, since you're here with us now, which we're very all grateful that you're here because we love your wisdom and we love your input. What is your opinion on Erling Haaland going to City?
Unlike most of you guys, I'm not the biggest fan of the move. Not just because of the injuries, but like Baza already said, and I'll have it said it on record that he copied my line that there are lesser games, lesser number of games, lesser number of domestic competitions, and a bigger winter break in Bundesliga. But I would like to
it was you, Seamus.
So that's where we got it.
But I just like to say one thing. Regardless of how many goals City score or not, still only 3 points winning a game. It doesn't matter who is the manager or how many superstars they sign. They only get 3 points from winning the matches. So don't just throw your toys out of the pram just yet.
Right, okay, that's fair points.
Well, there's obviously going to be other teams strengthening at the end of the window. We know Newcastle can spend a bit of money. We're assuming Chelsea's going to go through a bit of a transition phase with a new owner. There seems to be a few players leaving.
And a new defense. And a new defense for Chelsea.
And a new in Manchester United's regard, they've got a new manager coming in. They've got God knows who's going to come in, Frankie de Jong, etc., etc. So I'm not saying that Man City, by all means, I'm not saying that Man City's locked on to win the title next year. But I just think that with the addition of Erling Haaland and what he's done so far in such a short career that he's had, which has, many, many years to go, if he doesn't pick up too many serious injuries, I think he's guaranteed goals to the team. I think he makes their attack more potent than they've ever been, and it just keeps them up there for a while longer while the rest of their team is there.
Do you think he makes the attack more potent than it was with David Silva feeding Sergio Aguero? I don't see that. Aguero's twice the player.
Oh, look, so far in such a short career, I'll agree with you 100%. But I as a Liverpool fan who's competing with Man City at this stage in the moment, it's just us two. Like we've discussed on the previous couple of pods, there's Liverpool, City in any order, and a big gap, Chelsea, then another big gap. So from a Liverpool point perspective, Tris, I love your input and I love the things you're saying. Don't get me wrong, I love having people tell me the other side of it. But with what I've seen from Erling Haaland, with his goal scoring record and such, it does frighten me a little bit, because if they do get it right and he does come to fruition and become this monstrous striker in Europe and in the league, it does worry me a little bit.
Do you know they lost David Silva, who was a fantastic player, there's no doubt in it. But don't you think that De Bruyne has stepped up and took that role?
No,
he's such a creative player and a goal scorer. I think he's absolutely fantastic.
But
I think he's the best player in the Premiership. I really do.
Bernardo Silva's the one that stepped up and taken on the role. That was the difference.
Yeah.
That's why they're doing so much better this season. De Bruyne was always playing like that. This isn't new for De Bruyne. The difference is Bernardo Silva's now stepped up a level.
Do you think so? I'm more in the Kevin De Bruyne camp. I think he's made the biggest difference.
Yeah, but De Bruyne was like that when it was the only difference was he spent some time out injured, but he was brilliant before his injury. And then he's been brilliant since. It's not like he's stepped up a level. He's played like this since he joined City.
If anybody has the right
Silva was the main man, but I think De Bruyne is the main man now. That they look to be creative, score goals, makes the team tick. For me, it's Kevin De Bruyne now. I know you're a big fan of Bernardo, but
no, I hate him.
He's not getting. I know you do, but he's not getting.
Liverpool supporters won't like Bernardo. Come on.
No.
Cannot stand him on a personal level, but
no,
you have to admire. He is as like I said, as much as I completely dislike him off the pitch and as a person, that's just me. on the pitch, he is a fantastic player, and City are very, very lucky to have someone like that because he, like Trish said, I completely agree. He has stepped up. He has become a key player in the team. He's played the majority of their games this year, and he is one of the most important cogs in that Manchester City team.
Nice.
Yeah, well, the silver lining for you guys then is that he still doesn't look completely settled in the team, like settled at Manchester City, and he still seems to fancy a move.
Who's
You're right,
Silva?
man.
Yeah, Bernardo Silva, he nearly got a move this past summer as well.
Oh, right. Didn't know that.
So you
Very-
never know. Maybe Man City and Barca do some sort of a deal involving Frankie De Jong and Bernardo.
Be the kind of stupid thing Pep would do. He does have a tendency to make really bizarre transfer decisions, doesn't he?
But are we all saying now that City are going to win the league? Do we all think City's going to win the league?
Yeah, it's done and dusted.
I can't see them. Can't see them lose.
I was gonna say,
again.
hold on.
Go on.
I'm just gonna say, just wait before handing them the title already. They've not even won this season's title yet, mathematically.
I'm talking about this season.
I was
Yeah.
just going to say, I thought that was what we were talking about, Deeps.
Yeah.
Oh, this season, I thought you guys are already gift wrapping the next
No,
season's
no.
title.
No.
We're going to have to
just
call
this
you
season.
Mystic Deep.
Yeah, Diaz might change things.
Yeah, he could do.
Look, for this season, in regards to your question, Billy,
Yeah.
3 points clear and a fair bit of a buffer when it comes to goal difference with their latest couple of hammerings that they've given their opponents. You've got to pretty much say, unless a miracle occurs, that Man City will win the Premier League 21-22. It does, as a Liverpool fan, and I can only speak as a Liverpool fan right now, but from a Liverpool fan's perspective, it does burn quite a bit because I know we had a bit of a sour patch around, what was it, December-ish, January, where we lost a bit of form and such. And I don't want to get into referee calls and handball against Everton and things like, just things like that still kind of burn me inside. At this stage, you're right. It does look like City is going to be crowned the Premier League champions. And what else can you say? They've had a good end of the season so far. The only thing that does me and Baz have spoke about this on a personal level, where when teams go to play Man City, especially towards the end of the season, it just feels like they roll over to them, and it's like, all right, we know we're going to lose. Let's just keep it from not being too embarrassing. Now they've gone and hammered Wolves. Yeah, we've gone and hammered Wolves 5-1 this morning. I mean, I don't know what time it was for you guys, for me this morning, and it's like, does anyone else see in the Premier League? I know they might not have that much to play for their opponents, but if you actually really apply the pressure and take it to Man City, there's a chance you might be able to get something out of the game.
Agreed.
At the end of the day, if they do win the Premier League, which looks likely, good on them. I can't feel any ill will. A little, obviously, it hurts a little bit being a Liverpool supporter because I think we are a better team, and that's just me being non-biased. That's just my opinion. And they didn't get what they wanted at the end of the season, which is to be in the Champions League final, which we did.
I don't think you'd call it non-biased to say your opinion is that Liverpool are better. I don't think you can call that non-biased, mate. Even if
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that, but when I speak like this in my side of the town with my friends, the first thing I get called is biased from everyone else, because all the friends and I, the Premier League down here, are all, majority of them are Liverpool supporters, Chelsea supporters, Manchester United supporters, and such. So the moment I go bleeding around saying, "Oh, I still think we're the best in the team," I get shut down automatically saying I'm biased. So,
That's because
Yeah,
At the end of the day,
everyone's
you're
biased
bound to be.
towards their own side. Yeah. You said you're bound to be.
look, at the end of the day, we've got something that City want, and they've got something that we want. So
Yeah.
I find it a bit ironic that at the end of the season, we're in the Champions League final, which I know the City group and Pep want so badly. And I know that they're in the end of the season stage where they've got the 3-point buffer and the goal difference that we want. So, look, fair play. There's still a fair bit to play for. There's still some points up for grabs. There's still a miracle that us Liverpool supporters can hope for. But we'll see what happens. Anything can happen in the Premier League.
Some things can't, I believe, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, they just need Moyes to do a Moyes, I think.
Yeah,
They're
even if
depending
they
on
beat
Moyes.
City, I still think they'd win it. I still think they'd win it even
this is
if West Ham
Moyes.
beat them.
He won't even send out his team to try and beat them. Because he just
They
doesn't.
mightn't do no.
No, not one against a big side like that. He always bottles it. You know what he does. He'll send. He'll take up. Do you remember? Was
even
it
if he did-
Spurs when you were losing and he took off an attacker to bring on a defender? Like what? The,
Yeah,
you know, this is Moyes is just too negative. That's why they're not in the. That's why they're struggling this season.
Do you reckon he
Yeah,
won't,
do you-
Chris?
Sorry, Bazza, didn't hear that.
Moyes.
What about-
Sorry, buddy. Moyes. Do you reckon he'll just won't bother his arse, or he'll just send out the reserves?
No, send them out to defend. That's what he'll do. He'll go out there to try and hold the 0-0, and hope to snatch it on the break. But that won't work against City because that's not the way to beat them.
No. What did you think about that comment there that Rob made about the other teams just sitting back, and when it comes to City, the difference in teams when they play Liverpool and the difference when the same team plays Manchester City. There's night and day.
I don't think it is, Barry. I think people
You
are
not
doing
think
it
so?
with Liverpool now. Yeah, I think people do it with Liverpool. When they go to Anfield, they seem to have a negativity, and Liverpool fans keep complaining to me that people are parking the bus,
Yeah.
which they do at times. And they're playing like 8 men in defence, 9 men in defence. And that's exactly what's happened to City. And now Liverpool, because they're the strongest sides in the division,
Yeah.
people are doing it to Liverpool now as well. And I think that goes for the both top teams, you know what I mean? It's damage limitation after time.
Okay.
Right, moving
Just-
on to the other end of the table, the relegation battle, which is still in full flow. How do we all feel about who's going down? Now,
Leeds
the
are-
reason I say this is Chris, a couple of weeks back, threw a bit what seemed like at the time a bit of a spanner in the works, and said that he fancied Leeds to be in big trouble. And
No,
2 weeks
really,
later-
why are you
2
just giving him more reasons to gloat? You never bring up these things. You should learn by now.
I'm giving credit where it's due. He was
Oh,
the
we're
first
never
one out
gonna
of all
hit the
of
end
us
of this
who,
now.
who
We're
brought
never
them
gonna
into
hit
the
the end of
equation.
this.
Just jealous, Deeps. You're just jealous.
So what do we think, boys? Do we think Leeds are gone?
Do you know what, Bill? Just gotta say, then you're presenting. It was like Tom O'Connor in his prime. The way you linked that up, mate, I tell you. You got the
Yeah.
hair and
It's
During
everything.
the time,
You got the hair and everything. I take it you remember.
Can you
it,
explain
Bill.
that for the millenniums?
How he's
who,
just,
Tom O'Connor?
he's a TV presenter, Scouse. Like. I was
So we're saying Leeds are in big trouble, boys. Is that what all saying? Leeds look as though they're favourites to go down now.
Yeah, Leeds are in massive trouble. Massive.
So are Burnley. They're on
Burnley's
the
still
same
got-
number of points.
game in hand, though.
The goal difference, though, for Burnley is far superior to what Leeds is. And I can't see Leeds getting another point.
And
I think
they've got
Go
3
on,
games.
Tris.
They've got 3 games to play, Burnley, whereas Leeds have only got 2.
yeah.
And Everton, obviously, have got 3, haven't they, still? So that's where Leeds are in
Yeah.
real
Everton-
trouble.
Everton's safe enough, Billy.
I don't think they're safe enough, Barry. No, that'd be a bit out there to say that. They're still in big trouble. You should
They're
have
still
won
in
last
trouble,
night.
but-
And
Yeah, especially against Watford.
Yeah, well, aren't they the
Yeah,
worst team in the world, didn't you say, Billy? When they lost 5-0
They
to
are the-
Liverpool, you said they were the worst team in the world. And I seem to remember what happened just after that. What did they do? What did they do to
Come
Everton
on.
last time?
And Man
They beat us
United.
5-2.
Yeah, that's
You might have won and Man United as well.
yeah, exactly.
but if you've seen the side they put out yesterday, you'd say they're the worst side in the Premiership.
I've
They
got-
were bloody awful.
I've got to say
They
something
really
about them.
were.
Have you must have heard they've appointed Rob Edwards from just
Yeah,
won League
yeah,
2
yeah.
with Forest
Forest
Green.
Green.
Did you hear about
Forest Green,
Did you
yeah.
hear about Forest Green really upset about it because apparently they didn't tell him they were negotiating with him until afterwards. So the deal was all
No,
They
that's
agreed.
not
cracked
on,
the
is
shit,
it?
yeah.
No, he's saying
That's
he
just not fair, is it? That's not playing ball.
Well, yeah, because especially as he had a thing in his contract anyway, so Forest Green couldn't have done anything about stopping him taking the job anyway. He had a clause in his contract, so why not tell him?
Maybe he got sick of all the
Lots
vegan
of family.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Rob. I wouldn't want to work for them.
food. Need some bloody meat in our diet, mate.
Yeah, give me some proper food for fuck's sake. Hamburger without meat. What's that all about?
So I'm going to go through all the lads now. Tris, who's going down?
I hate to say it, but I think it's going to be Leeds. I feel
Barry?
Yeah, Leeds.
Rob?
Yeah, I gotta agree. Sorry, I'm just making some pasta at 1:30 in the morning, but I think Leeds. I think Leeds are going down. I think Everton's got a bit of a sniff now of that survival sniff where they think they know they've got a really good chance. That they've put up a good couple of performances in the last game. I think Leeds are under the pump really bad. Things haven't worked well under Jesse Marsh, which Tris has spoken about before, and I completely agree with him. He never looked good in the first place. So at this stage of the season, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Leeds.
Deeps, what about you?
Like this, I don't hate to say it, but it looks like Leeds are favourite to go down.
I do because it means Billy will be happy when Everton don't.
Absolutely, I will, yeah. If that happens, of course.
So,
And where do we see Burnley
what about
fitting
you,
into
Bill?
this?
Bill, come on, you've got to give your thing.
Come on,
Yeah,
Bill.
you said who you
I think Leeds are going down. I can't see Leeds getting another point, I'll be honest with you. Maybe 1 point, but that won't be enough. And I think they're going down, Leeds. I think Everton will survive, even though I don't want to put the mockers on them, but I think Leeds are in absolute free fall. They've had 2 players sent off in the last 2 games, and they don't look like a side who's got much about them at the moment.
What's
They
wrong
really
with
don't.
What's up with that Dan James? He seems to have turned into just a thug, just throwing himself in 2-footed every week. They've been complaining about him on the Leeds site for weeks now about his challenges.
Maybe he's just sick and tired of bouncing off other people.
I mean, yeah, he's
He
probably-
falls over like Gordon.
He's fucking weak.
Oh,
He's
it's
so
embarrassing.
weak physically, and now he's showing that he's mentally weak as well.
But I mean, when
Yeah, you're right, Deeps.
you're thinking he's the one player though in football that if he did throw himself in 2-footers in a really dangerous challenge, he'd probably only hurt himself anyway.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
is very
he'd-
weak, isn't
He'd
he?
slam
He
into your ankle and break his own leg rather than yours, I reckon.
I would, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So
It's a good question.
why is he getting all thuggish? Why is he throwing himself into these tackles and getting a name for himself
Jesse
lately? Where did
Marsh
that
way,
come
I think.
from?
I think it's Jesse Marsh's only plan now is to just say, just kick them.
I think he's a very lucky kid to be a professional footballer, to be honest with you. I don't
I think
rate him.
there's still there, Billy.
I never rated him at Manchester United, and I
was
couldn't
awful
see
at
the point
Swansea.
of Leeds getting him.
I think he's a legend. I think he's a legend because we sold him and bought Ronaldo with the same money. He's a legend. Just imagine.
I think
No, to be honest, he actually cost me.
Yeah, he's not on the same wages though.
I think he's
No, but even 50 years from now, that will seem so weird that a club paid 25 odd million for him, let alone right now.
Yeah.
I think he falls.
Yeah.
I think he falls into the same bracket as Adama Traore, where instead of being a professional footballer, they should have been a professional sprinter.
The weird thing
Yeah,
is,
possibly.
the weird thing is with Dan
Yeah,
James
yeah.
is that Leeds had tried to sign him initially and had the deal all agreed for about half the price for what they paid. They ended up paying for him, and yet he'd had a disastrous time at Man United. So why did his value go up? Why did they pay more for him? I do not. And somebody's got to explain what the thinking was behind that.
Is that because he's made a few appearances for United at the time?
Yeah, but he'd been dreadful for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he only had like 3 decent outings right at the beginning of his career when he scored a few goals coming off the bench. That was it.
The thing I don't understand is how do clubs employ scouts to sign, for example, Leeds or United, who did sign Dan James for quite a significant amount of money? How do they allow
You
scouts
want to know
to
how he ended up signing him?
I mean, I'm not joking, Tris. I'd rather employ you if I worked at a big club to go out for me as a chairman or a manager or whatever the case is for my club to go out and scout me that right or left winger that I've been wanting, and not to come back with someone like Dan James, which I'm going to spend 20 to 25 million pounds on.
Well, I'd take a look at him and say he's not worth spending 25 pence on, and I can't understand how professional scouts can't see it either.
That's
Well,
what I
who's
mean.
called-
We didn't scout him. Come on, Chris. We didn't scout him. It was Ryan fucking Geeks who suggested it to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Well, that says it all, doesn't it?
I think the
It was
bloke
Just
may
for the
play
boys' brigade.
manager.
It's
It
just
was
a just for
Giggs.
the boys' brigade. He
Oh,
nearly
it was
he
Giggs,
nearly
right.
even led us to signing Joe Roden as well.
Jesus. But this is the guy.
And he
Thank God
fucking
you
wants
brought
to
that
be our manager in the future.
Oh, this is the guy who was
Manage
having
my
a,
ass.
who was having a go at Memphis Depay for being too flashy because he drove a flash car, but he's staying back on the training pitch to work on his crossing every night. It was Louis Van Gaal that told him stop training. You're fine. You're just not listening to my instructions. That's your problem. When he was training on his own after after everyone else had stopped, like you're thinking, Giggs, if he's not turning around to Van Gaal and saying, no, the lad should be working on his game. And then coming out and making comments about the lad being too flashy because he drove a flash car and dressed nice. Go flash, you know what I mean? I mean, that's hardly the same as Giggs is the man that was out on the lash every night and shagging his sister-in-law. That's far worse than anything Depay did. So how do these people keep getting jobs?
Can I just ask you, boys, does anyone think that there's a bit of corruption in this sort of transfer?
But that's
Through
what I'm
agents and scouts or whatever who are given a bung. I'm just putting this out there, like that. Why would someone sign Dan James when everyone could see he was very weak and not very talented? He's okay. It's okay for a first division club, maybe second division. But does anyone think it's because of these agents who are coming in, like KJ Rabchin has done with Everton, and got them to sign players
Mendes
through the chairman rather than the actual scouts, or what used to happen at the Liverpool through the boot room, where they got players who were young, talented individuals who were in the lower tiers and brought through. Is there some sort of corruption going on, would we think?
Question has to be asked, Billy, doesn't it?
It does, I think so. It does,
In fairness, like if you pull if you pull the layers of the transfer, right, that young James chap, and if you pull it apart and you start from the ground up, from when he was suggested / spotted until he was signed, I guarantee you the hairs in the back of your neck would stand.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I think so. Right.
And that's scary. That's very scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking that why would a team like Leeds buy Dan James? I can't see the point of them going out there and buying him. That's my problem with it.
Not just one team, Bill. I mean, United spent 25 million pounds on him, but for another team to go in and spend another significant amount of money on him is like, what do you possibly see in this player?
Yeah.
With his current performances at Manchester United at the time, that's going to improve your squad.
Yeah.
But don't you think them questions should be asked, Rob? Don't you think that someone at the club should come along and say, why have we spent 25 million on this player who doesn't fit our system and who is not going to offer us anything, constructive wise?
Maybe they won't ask the question because they know the answer.
Yeah, very possibly, Barry. Very possibly.
They know something happened in the background, that the old boys club, there was a bit of, take him, blah, blah, blah. Look, and that's why the question probably will never be asked, because they know the answer.
Yeah, but very much so.
When you're a club like Leeds United, who don't have the financial pulling power as United would have in a window, when you're spending a fair bit of money, which they would have from their transfer budget or however it works with what they're given, wouldn't you have to second guess what the scouts are trying to bring in based off his performances with United? That's what I'm trying to say here. The people that are employed by these clubs, who are scouts or people that are out at games looking for players to be brought in, don't you have to start second guessing them? Like I said before,
absolutely.
I'd much rather Tris at my club sitting in a crowd watching a player that we've told him to watch than these people who are getting paid absolutely out of their ass, making money, watching players like Dan James, convincing their clubs this man is worth spending 20 to 25 million pounds on.
Yeah, you got to ask.
I totally agree with you, Rob.
You got to
totally agree with you, mate.
Why the club, whoever's making the final decision on the transfers, why they're not looking at him going, well, hang on, I know you've recommended him as a scout, but I've seen him play and he's crap. I mean, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to spot it. He's weak. He's basically the only thing he's got is pace, but he's got no brains. I mean, it's bizarre.
Well, that's why I was talking about corruption. That's what I was saying about corruption. Does someone say at the club, I'm second guessing here, you need to take this player, and they're getting a cut out of his wages as the agents do, and they're getting a fee for him signing on, and there's other people involved in that as well. Does that happen? Does it happen?
100%. I mean, it's almost like Leeds have gone onto YouTube and have searched young right or left winger playing, you know what I mean? And just have watched.
No, he was someone they tracked a long time before, and Bielsa wanted him when he was fit, before he got into the Swansea side. Basically, he wanted him as he saw him as a player with potential to mould into a decent player. Not because
because
that was when he was a kid. You know what I mean? Because he was fast and he knew he could coach technique into him. Because technique can be coached. This is the thing. This is why it annoys me. You can learn technique. There's no excuse for these players like Lukaku who have got shit technique. They're just lazy, and that's why you should never touch them with a barge pole. Because if they can't learn basic football skill, they should all have good technique at the top end. If they haven't got it, then they're lazy. It is that simple. It's not, it's the only reason why they haven't got it is because they're not working hard enough at it on the training ground. So, that's Bielsa saw that there's a player there with pace, and he just needs to learn how to read the game, in game intelligence, which can be taught, and he needs to learn technique, which can be taught, and he needs to strengthen up, which, again, you can work on in the gym. make him stronger.
No.
So
But then if
there is a possibility of a player there if you've got him working with the right coach and he's got the right attitude. So I can see why you wanted him when he was a kid, but why did they go back for him years later after he's already shown he hasn't got the mental, he hasn't got the attitude needed? I don't understand it. That's where you've got to question it. Not the initial decision, not the initial looking at him and wanting to bring him in as a kid. It's when he's shown himself to not be the right attitude for the club. Why do you then go back and get him when he's shown he's not the player you want? I mean, they don't seem to actually take any account into the fact that it's a few years later and it's too late to start to train them into the right mental attitude.
Yeah, it's a good point, Chris. It's a good point.
You can develop it as a kid.
Right, moving on, boys. Moving on. The next thing to discuss, I think, we've done the relegation, we've done the title, and is the fourth place trophy. Massive game tonight. Arsenal and Spurs for the fourth place trophy. Who do we think are going to win tonight? I'll start with you, Tris.
Do you know what? I think Arsenal will probably win it just because they seem to have luck on their side. They're not a particularly good side, but they just seem to have luck on their side and pick up results when it matters, and that's what you need. Sometimes that's more important. A lucky, as Napoleon once said, I'd rather have a lucky general than a good one.
Yeah. How about you, Rob? What do you think?
I think that both sides, like I've mentioned countless times in the past year, are both poor. I think that it almost seems like I feel like a broken radio. That both sides almost seemed as if they were doing the best they can not to finish in top four. But if I really narrowed it down, Bill, and I really want to see, in my opinion, who was the better of the sides, who I think is going to win this next game, who I think is more capable of winning and reaching the top four, I think it's Spurs.
Right.
Arsenal. In my opinion, I don't know if there's any Arsenal listeners listening. I don't want to offend them too bad, but I think that they're pretty trash. I think
that's not very offensive, is it?
Look, I know I've had a few bevies tonight, and I might be a bit more out there than I usually am, but look, I think that signing, locking down, I should more say, Arteta to a new deal. It's just the wrong way for the club to go. He's obviously shown in many occasions that he's not right and he's not up for it. And I'm not saying Conte is going to stick around at Spurs for 3 to 4 years and see them off. But if I really want to nail it down, I think that Spurs are the better team, and I think that Spurs will be, winning this next game, regardless of where it is, and making the top four.
How about you, Barry? What's your view on it, mate?
To be honest, I was actually surprised that they offered him Arteta signed a contract. I didn't think they'd actually stick with him. Now, who they would have went for out there, I don't know. But when he signed on, because I know a couple of Arsenal fans myself, and they don't want him, they don't like him. He's not, as one fan said to me, he's not a fit for the club. He's just not Arsenal. And that's the way he put it to me. Arteta is not Arsenal. Because when I said to him, explain about Arteta.
But he is an arse.
Oh, he is an arse. So good man, Seamus. So, no, just going.
Sounds like he fits then.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
But
Arsenal can't be spelled without an arse. Like I said it last week as well. I'm going to take this joke to my coffin.
So go on, Dave. What's your view on it? Who's going to get
Go
top
ahead,
four?
Dave. You jump in there.
Who's going
No,
to win top
continue,
four?
Beth. Sorry to interrupt you midway, but
No, it's
I
okay. I'm
couldn't
used to
let
it.
it slide.
Oh, for
No,
God's sake.
Here's my view on it then.
Right, go on. Go on, Billy.
Here's my view on it. I think Tottenham will maybe win tonight. only because of the two forwards they've got. I think the rest of the team are very average, but they've got two forwards in Son and Kane who can win games. And, you know, they put up a decent show against Liverpool. Liverpool. They are two quality forwards. The rest of the team is not. It is very average for me. Arsenal have got Saka. The likes of Saka, who's a very good player. I think that Eddie Nketiah is going to be a good player. He's only young. And I actually disagree with the fact that that Arteta shouldn't have signed. I think he's doing okay. He's getting compared to Arsene Wenger, and there's no Arsene Wengers about. There's only two great managers. There's only two great managers, and that is Klopp and Pep at the moment. The rest are all also runs. And for me, he's as good as Arsenal are getting at the moment, for me, anyway.
Arsenal shouldn't be battling. Growing up as a child, I've seen Arsenal being a dominant team, someone that you sit there and you dread to play against, especially away from home and things like that. So
Overmars and people, then brilliant.
Exactly right, Bazza. So if you flip forward all these years later, it's like they're a longer. It's like they're like Manchester United, but they've just been going on for longer. And I think that a club with the magnitude of Arsenal and how much they hold, you know, the prestigious league and the history that they have, I don't think that someone like Lego Man, what's his name, Arteta should be having a further contract, because look, that's your opinion and you're completely entitled to it and I respect it, but I just think that Arsenal are better as a club than what Mikel Arteta can bring. He's been there long enough to show that he's not good enough. And I just think that instead of finishing for the top four, they should be.
Come on, let the man in. Go on, Abby.
Give Rob enough Fosters. Go on, Rob.
Oh, mate, I'm carrying the torch tonight for you, my friend.
We know you're carrying a torch for Abid. You have been since you met.
For hours, Rob. Go on, Rob.
Go on. Yeah, I just think that Arteta's not good enough. If Arsenal want to progress onto, you know, bigger and better things and get back to the groove that they were in 10, 15, 20 years ago, he's not the man that's going to lead them in that direction, Bill. I just think that they're not a mid-table club where it's like, oh, we're kind of lucky to have Arteta, you know, with his name and where he's been assistant before and things like that. I just think that they're so much better to move past that. It's a failed experiment. It's time now to get rid and to try something else to propel us back into that top four and back for fighting for titles and trophies.
But he is getting them to that top four, I think, this season. I think even though I think Tottenham will win, I expect Arsenal to actually get fourth. But the thing is, there's no Wengers out there. He got the club. He actually got the club, you know what I mean? Like Ferguson did with United. He actually got the club. No one else gets it at the moment.
Mate, there's 4 Wengers on this web podcast.
Yeah, I know that. But I'm busy. I'm flagging tomorrow after we golf.
There is Wengers out there. Barry, Bilbo, there's Wengers out there. But people are afraid to take the risk. They go with tried and trusted managers and they're afraid to take risks. Like, look at Watford now. I'm fair play to them for what they've taken a League 2 manager and given him a championship position. Fair play. That's called guts.
Don't you think Arsenal done that with Arteta, taking him from never managing a side before to being Pep's number 2 to being Arsenal number 1? Don't you think that was a bit of a risk?
That was a risk, but it's not general. It's an exception to the rule. It doesn't usually happen like that. What Premiership club does that, really?
No, I thought it was unusual, I must admit.
So I'm all for it, and I've got a soft spot for Arsenal because of Wenger, as you mentioned, but the Wenger years, because Classy got it and he ran it really well. I was impressed by top, and because of all the education and the wisdom and the science, sports science, and he brought into the Premiership. But listen, I hope Arsenal get the top four, and he's had an absolute battering, Arteta. And and if he gets them top four, it's a middle finger up to everybody, and let them build from here. You know, they're a London club. They'll always have players coming to them. Let them get into the Champions League. Maybe this is a catalyst for change for them. Maybe not. Maybe it's lucky. I don't know. But who cares? We're going to win the Champions League, so it doesn't matter,
You'll be swinging around the Eiffel Tower, won't you, Abbott?
That's a good segue, actually, into the Champions League.
So,
And first of all, the FA Cup final.
Yeah, I was going to say we
which is
should do the
happening
FA
on
Cup.
Saturday.
Just to point out,
Yeah.
Fabinho's ruled out for
Go on,
definite.
Tris.
Fabinho's just been ruled out by Liverpool for definite at the cup final.
Oh, I see. Yeah. That's a bit of a blow.
Before you guys go ahead and preview the FA Cup final, can I just say I don't care. I don't fucking care who wins and who loses.
Ooh!
It's a lose-lose
You're
situation
such
for
a
me anyway.
sore loser.
It doesn't matter because Ronaldo won the Premier League Player of the Month, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's
It's deep
the
swearing.
two most important trophies. The two most important trophies have already been handed out. The Player of the Month for Cristiano and the true FA Cup, the FA Cup for the under-18. Those two are done and dusted. I don't care anymore.
Brilliant.
my
Fair
God.
play to them. Bless them.
Deeps, does your mum know you're swearing? When did you start swearing?
He's going to get his mouth washed out with soap and water.
Thankfully, she doesn't understand when I'm swearing in English.
I'm going to give you a bar of that Lifebuoy soap. Remember that Lifebuoy soap?
Yeah.
Billy,
Yeah.
there's a
I've
question.
actually
I wanna-
got some
sorry.
Lifebuoy soap.
No way. Seriously?
Yeah, I seen it in the shop here the
That's,
other day.
I could sip you. Yeah, I could sip you tons of them from here.
Yeah, they're common
They're
here.
like so readily available. Yeah,
Cheap
common.
soap.
Free.
Very
cheap soap,
common.
Lifebuoy soap.
Oh,
is
yeah,
so
the second
popular.
cheapest soap of that ilk.
Yeah, see?
Cowbolic soap.
Yeah, that was it, Barry. Carbolic. I was trying to think of the name. Carbolic.
Diabolical.
Cowbolic. Yeah, cowbolic soap.
Billy,
Yeah.
You
Billy,
remember Imperial Leather?
Which?
We
Imperial,
still get it.
I
We
still get
still get
Imperial
it.
Leather. Yeah.
I hate it. I hated that soap. I grew up on that. I hated it. And
You must have been rich
And we-
because we never had proper soap like that. That was the posh soap.
did you?
Oh, Imperial
Yeah,
Leather.
anything with
posh
leather
stuff.
is too expensive. Anything with leather is too expensive.
You're thinking of BDSM again.
Billy, there's a question I want to pose to you before we move on to.
Go on, mate.
I'm not being harsh on saying this. Before we move on to things such as the Champions League final and such, I just wanted to ask you, as an Evertonian, as an Everton fan who's quite passionate, and I admire your passion. How long you've been an Everton supporter? What I want to know from you is, if you survive relegation this season, just say Leeds get relegated, and Everton survives, and they just miss out on by the skin of their teeth. What do you want to see as an Evertonian and someone who's followed the club as long as you have? What's some of the things you want to see before the turn of the next season in terms of players, in terms of management, in terms of how the club is run? What's some of the things that you would like to be changed before next season starts?
The manager.
Well, I'd like to see it stop from the top first. I'd like all these people who are on the board. I'd like them to either resign or be redefined some way. I think Bill Kenwright should leave. I think he's been there too long, and the abuse he takes is too much for a man of his stature. And I'd sooner him leave. And I'd like Mashiri to get better advice from people. He'll still be the owner, but he's got to take better advice from people and not deal with people like Kia Jarabchin, who's actually fleeced the club for so much money. I'd like a new manager. Although, to be fair, a lot of the Evertonians are wanting to stick with Frank because they're hoping. Now, I'm not a big hoper, but that to have a clean slate and try and build something from. But what I've seen of him, he can't do that. I don't think he's got the wherewithal, myself personally, but everyone seems to want to stick with him. But I think we've got to get rid of the jobs for the boys culture that's at the club. There's like 9 ex-players who are to do with the coaching staff, from Jose Baxter to players, people like that, you know, who are involved. And now Sharpie's gone on the board and Tim Cale's supposedly going to be brought in. I don't like it. I think it breeds contempt, familiarity in that way. And Everton have got to start building like a proper club and not become what they've turned into now, which is an absolute mess. It was squandering money left, right and centre.
Sorry, hang on.
On
You said
poor or average players.
got to stop
Go
you
on.
there. You said turned into a mess. I think you get mixed up there with we're talking about Everton. You do realise that, right?
Yeah, I do, yeah. But you know, I know what they've turned into.
Yeah, well,
I
they
don't
were
like
always
it
a
one little
mess.
bit.
They've been a mess since the 80s.
Yeah, since the 80s, but that's not that long ago when you're my age.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, well, I wasn't even born in the 80s, mate.
I know, mate. I was watching them when Gordon Lee was the manager, and so that wasn't.
Billy, are
Go on,
you
Barry.
saying? Are you saying like look? Me and you spoke about this loads of times, and I remember watching the great '80s, the Howard Kendall teams. And
Yeah.
are you saying that the Everton wasn't run right then? Was it not in a good position then? Like, I mean,
Yeah, it
from
was, you know,
board
Barry.
boys.
It was run well then, because
Hmm.
he had a bit of an iron fist. I know he turned into a bit of a, you know, alcoholic at times, but he had the club discipline, and the club's got no discipline at the moment. Players are doing exactly
Carter,
what you
wasn't it?
want, and there wasn't the competition like there is now, like the Liverpools and the Cities and the Chelseas and the Tottenhams who can go out and buy. We were always the king of buying the good players. You know what I mean? We were the millionaires club, and we had that for a number of years, and we could afford to, you know, get those Gary Linekers and players like Bob Latchfords and all them. We could get them, but now we're just also runs, and the club is an absolute mess from top to bottom. I honestly think.
And you had a good chairman then, Carter. What was his first name?
Yeah.
Carter?
Philip Carter.
Carter was Philip Carter. Yeah.
Philip Carter.
He was
Did
okay.
he not run it well?
Yeah, but he come on the back of the Moores family, you know, who had the money and had the influence and brought in the top players and the top coaches, and that's gone now. That's when we were a really respected club. I don't think we are at the moment. Don't think we're respected at all. So go on, we're still on the FA Cup final, Tris. What's your thoughts on it, mate?
Well, it's just got a lot harder without Fabinho. That's a real big. That's a
Yeah.
major downgrade for that. There's nobody else in the squad that can do his position as well. For me, I think Klopp's going to have to look to play Thiago alongside Henderson deep and play either Firmino or.
Be playing Chris.
Hmm?
You said Henderson, Thiago deep. No, I'm not gonna play on Saturday.
No, I'm saying it's got to be those two. Thiago and Henderson have got to play the deeper role together, because neither of them, you know, I mean, Henderson does it really well, but it's just if he's on his own, then he's locked in there and he can't get forward so well. You put him alongside someone, and it gives him just that bit more freedom, so it opens up his game, and he can use his running power and that as well. You know, because that's one of his main assets is the amount of work he can put in and the way he can get forward and put the ball into the box at times and that. You don't want to completely lose that, and that's what's going to happen if you have him sitting and playing just a holding role on his own. So
isn't Kante missing from Chelsea this weekend as well?
Kovacic is out for definite. I don't know about. I think Kante is, but he's barely played this season, has he? His injuries are getting really bad. I fear for him because I love Kante, and I fear we're coming to the end of his time.
Who plays up front, Trish, for Liverpool?
Well,
Does Diaz start?
It's got to be
Jota?
Diaz and Mane. Has to be Diaz. Jota should never start a game of football. Never start a game of football. When we're talking about players with a poor technique, Jota comes into it straight away. He's one of them. Yeah. He wouldn't get near a starting lineup for me ever unless you're resting someone. That's the only time he'd ever play, and it's an FA Cup final. It's a final. You play your best team, so it has to be Diaz and Mane, and Salah. Obviously, even though he's not in his best, he still creates problems because they double mark him. So that creates space in the middle and on the left. So you have to play him.
Yeah, and does Robertson come back in for Tsimikas?
See, that's a tough one because Robertson's looking a bit out of form, hasn't he? He's had a few. He's been making a few errors.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
But I mean,
I feel sorry for Tsimikas.
Brilliant. I mean, you just.
He's fantastic. I love him.
I adore Tsimikas. He's one of my favourite players right now. And it's hard.
He just looks as though he could do with a good night's sleep.
Yeah, he is ugly. He is ugly.
He carries freaking huge bags under his eyes. I've never seen anyone with such big bags under his eyes. He really looks like he's flown in and just kept it. It just hasn't had time to unpack from his holidays.
I would actually start Tsimikas.
I would consider it.
Of late, yeah, and because of late, Robbo's form it's dipped a little.
Yeah.
And it's a cup final, and we have a ready-made replacement or understudy or whatever you want to call it in Tsimikas. Because anytime he's come in, he's covered the left-back position, no problem.
But the energy Robertson gives you is another dimension, isn't it? His energy to get up and down all the time is possibly a bit better than what Tsimikas is for me. He gives you that energy.
Hang on.
Energy. Come on.
Is Billy finally giving some praise to Robertson? After years of criticizing him, saying he's not even in the top 20.
He's in the top 10. He's in the top 30.
He wasn't so long ago. He was not in the top. He was nowhere near
he wasn't.
It. It's like because you've lost.
You said it before.
Is he behind
People can be coached.
Is he behind
People can be coached.
Yo,
Mickey's right up there. I like Mickey. Mickey's good.
I did tell you, Billy, that he's going to be decent.
Yeah, he's a good player. Shane Patterson hasn't had a chance on the other side.
I know, yeah, absolutely. Don't even go there with that. On Liverpool, Rob, what would you like to see? What side would you like to see Liverpool play?
I'd like to see the bloody side that could beat Chelsea on the weekend, mate. I still think that I know Robertson's had a bit of a dip in form lately, but I still would start him in that final. I know it'll be a bit stiff from Tsimikas to miss the final, but I think with his experience and how many times, we've relied on him and he's been there for us, I still think I'd start Robertson. I think we've got what it takes to beat the Chelsea. I think we've got what it takes to beat Chelsea, but nothing's guaranteed. Firmino is going to be a big blow from the midfield, and that's got me worried a little bit. But I still think without him, that we are the more superior side, and if we turn up on the day, not like we have done against Spurs, then I think that we'll end up with another trophy to add to the collection at the end of the season.
Rob, who would you start in midfield?
For me personally,
Rob,
Henderson in that role that Fabinho plays. I think he has to. no-brainer also for me would to start Thiago. And that second role, I think it's at this stage of the season, unless I'm forgetting someone, because the Suntories, if I'm forgetting someone, I think it's got to be Naby Keita. I know we're not the biggest fan of him, and I know that we all don't think he's the greatest player, but to be a little bit fair to the bloke, the last month or so, he's been bearable to watch while he's been playing. He's been okay. There's a few times I've still wanted to tear his head off while watching through the TV.
I'd still
I
have
think
Joe.
even Curtis Jones. There you go. See, with the amount of alcohol ingestion tonight, I've forgotten Curtis Jones. He could be a dead-on start at the start as well. But I think Naby Keita wouldn't be someone who Klopp wouldn't pick for that. Would be someone that Klopp would pick for that side. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a Hendo, Thiago, and Keita starting in the FA Cup final.
Well, you're saying, Rob, about that you fully expect Liverpool to be superior to Chelsea. If you look over this season, the meetings that you had Chelsea and Liverpool, there's been absolutely nothing between the two sides.
Yep.
And the results have shown that. And sometimes it's horses for courses for me. There's certain sides who you don't like playing against, and I think Liverpool's style suits Chelsea. That's what I think anyway. What are you saying about it?
We've had 2 draws to them in the league, and we beat them on extra time penalties in the Carabao Cup. So you're spot on, Bill. I'm not sitting here expecting Liverpool to go and romp Chelsea 3 or 4-0 in the final. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game.
I think it's going to be a really tough game. Yeah, really tough game.
Yeah, 100%. And taking into consideration the last couple of games that we've played in the league haven't been up to scratch in terms of performances. I think Chelsea could obviously think to themselves, hey, here's another chance that we can take that Liverpool won't win another bit of silverware this season. And they're more than capable if they turn up on the day to win the FA Cup. But I think on paper, if you have to say right now, even without Fabinho, who's going to win the game, I'd still have to side with my boys.
You've got
right, that's okay.
And just to point out, Chelsea haven't been in the best of form either. I mean, they lost to Everton, for God's sake.
100% Trish, correct. I mean, I'm pretty sure a friend of mine sent me a link yesterday that Tuchel's only won 3 Premier League games in 2022. If I'm not being wrong here, if I'm being wrong, I stand to be corrected. But if that is the actual stat, and I'm not a big stat man, but if that is the actual stat in terms of wins, that's horrible. I mean, lucky they had enough of a buffer towards the start of the season. Otherwise, they could have also been dragged into that top 4, fighting position along with Arsenal and Spurs. So, look, I still think we're going to win. I still think we'd be favourites to win. And I'd be surprised if we did get done. But it's a cup final. Things can happen. We all know how football goes. And may the best team win on the day.
Sometimes teams just fancy playing against teams, don't they? I think Chelsea fancy playing against Liverpool. I think it suits them. And, they're not... I know Everton beat them. But Everton don't play like Liverpool, let's be honest, do they? But, they have all the play for 90, for 85 minutes or 85% of the game against Everton, 82%, whatever it was. And that doesn't suit them. I think they're a counter-attacking side, and I think they're going to be a bit of a threat to Liverpool. I'm not saying that they're going to beat them, but what I'm saying is, I think going by the past season, they seem to suit playing Liverpool. And I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people are saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they were the team I didn't want us to have to face.
Yeah, I'd agree
Sorry,
with that,
Basil.
Trish, yeah.
Go on.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, Tris, that the Carabao Cup final has to go down as the best 0-0 final in 90 minutes ever. It was absolutely fantastic. And I think Saturday is going to be the same. I really do. That's why I'm absolutely gutted that Fabinho's out. I'm a wee bit concerned now, slightly more concerned, because he was our midfield protector. He covered. He helped shield the back four. So it was never going to be a walkover, never, and it was always going to go down to. I think there's going to be one goal in it. Now,
Yeah,
hopefully,
that doesn't surprise me.
of course, I'm going to be shouting for Liverpool, and I think they just might share it, but it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough, tight game, but I think there's something in what you say, Billy, that
Yeah,
Chelsea do fancy play. They like the way they like the way we play. It suits them, and I think it might
yeah, I
have
think
something
so,
there,
Barry. Yeah,
But Lukaku, Timo Werner, they're not great up front. The goalkeeper Mendy, he had a fantastic game in the Carabao Cup final, and it was actually stupid what Tuchel did, changing the keepers for the penalty.
yeah, absolutely pathetic, wasn't it? It was pathetic.
That was ridiculous. Now Mendy, I don't rate him, but that day he was having the game of his life. And who's to say he wouldn't have saved the penalty? I actually think he would have. Rudiger, he's the only defender for me. I don't rate the rest of them. In midfield.
Sorry, what? Did you just say you rate Rudiger?
Among the rest of them, slightly, Tris.
Really? I don't rate him at all.
Come on, Baza, you don't have to feel intimidated by Trace.
Explain.
You can't say that you like him.
Yeah, explain why you like him. What's so good about him? That's what I want to know.
I think he's aggressive. He's no nonsense.
Rash.
Yeah, physical.
He is physical. Yeah, I'll give you that, Barry. He is physical.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I like a good physical defender.
Okay.
That's fair enough. How about you, Deeps? How do you see the cup final going, mate?
Well, he won't see it, will he? Because he won't be watching, because he'll be crying about Man United not being there.
Oh, or maybe I'll be busy setting up a poster for Alejandro Garnacho. Either one of the two things. But I think Liverpool are a better team, and they should show it tomorrow. No, day after tomorrow.
All right, okay, that's fair enough. So are we going on now to the, I don't know whether we'll be doing a podcast next week. Will we or are we going to leave the Champions League final? We're not going to talk about that. What do you think, Tris?
Leave it. It's still a fair few weeks down the line, isn't it?
Yeah, there's still a few games to go in the Premier League and that yet. So.
Okay, we'll leave that in abeyance then, the Champions League final.
Is that an ice cream van?
Well, mate.
I think the police are looking for Bill.
Oh, come on, Robbo. No, I think Robbo did something naughty. One of his drunken escapades.
I'm clean, man. I'm clean.
Right. Well, the other talking points we were going to do today was the chanting about Emilio Sala, and it was just absolutely disgusting. Tris, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I can't get over that. I mean, this is Emiliano Sala, who was a hero to the fans there at Nice. Was it Nice? Yeah, Nice.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
No, Nantes.
Nantes.
No, Nantes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a hero to them, and but then they come out with a chant about it. It's bizarre.
And a disgusting chance as well, by the way.
You know,
considering the way that poor lad lost his life.
Well, it's just, I mean, why would it? I don't get it. Why is any set of fans chanting about somebody who's died and died in a plane crash into the sea, like at the English Channel, and then they chant about he's an Argentinian who can't swim? I mean, is that meant to be funny? Because I don't get the joke if it is. It just seems.
Don't trust.
That just seems a bit sick and you know, the family must hear these kind of things. How do you think they feel?
Yeah, I thought it was disgusting myself.
It was good that the chairman? The chairman came out, secretary.
The manager, Christophe Galtier.
And the owner,
And he,
the
Yeah.
whole lot. Basically, the whole club came out and condemned it.
that the fans should be banned. Anybody, if they know who it, but as you said, Tris, these are his fans, and you say he was liked, he was well
No,
thought
no,
of.
no, Baza. It's not his fans per se. It's Nice fans were taunting Nantes fans
Oh,
with the
right.
chant.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh.
It's he was a hero to the Nantes fans. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. And the Nice fans who
Yeah.
chanting. Sorry, that was because I got mixed up between the two, because of the two ends. Like, yeah, then it was a hero to the Nantes fans, and the Nice fans were taunting them about him, and it's like, it's just,
Right.
you know, that's just one of
No,
those
that's-
things you don't taunt about. It's like,
No.
Yeah.
there's certain things.
No.
Hillsborough High Souls, the Munich disaster,
Munich. Yeah.
Ibrox disaster, things like that. You know, there's certain things. You know what Barry Bennell was doing around the country and things like that. They're just not right. You just don't make jokes about them and taunt about them.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Yeah,
Very
that is,
wrong.
yeah. But
Very
do
wrong.
we think that's more a society problem than a football problem?
Very much
It
so.
seems that way
I think
to
it's
me.
the problem. Sorry to cut you off, Billy. I think it's the problem
on.
with the Nice supporters.
Right?
Remember, they were the ones that caused all the hoo-ha with the Marseille players and all the classes and that.
Right. Okay.
It's not even the first time they caused so much furore this season, let
To be-
alone in the history.
To be fair, this is a bit of a problem in football in general among football fans, but French football in particular seems to be suffering a real regression back to like 70s violent times. In particular, Paris Saint-Germain fans and Marseille fans are just nothing but trouble, and there's a lot of others as well. It's been getting worse. They've been having a lot of problems this season, and it's been. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well, wasn't the
spreading.
bottles thrown on a?
Yeah,
You know, the
Payet.
bottle thrown at
Payet, yeah.
Payet, yeah. And that was disgusting in itself. But as you say, is it an endemic problem with football fans throughout, or do you think it's just mainly French at the moment? Do you think it's just highlighted how bad French fans are?
well, it's spreading, isn't it? Because I mean, wasn't it the Everton fans? Wasn't it they throwing the bottles the other day, and Man United fans?
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure Liverpool fans as well. I mean, it's happening everywhere. It's spreading. It's becoming. Everyone
is,
seems
yeah.
to be regressing, and I don't understand it.
That's why I think it's more of a social problem than what it is a football problem. You know,
Definitely.
there seems no discipline, and I highlighted with Barry and sent him some footage of Everton fans,
Yeah.
you know, chanting about the '97, you know, and it was disgusting. And I can't be doing with football when it gets to that stage.
But as I said to you, Billy, sorry for interrupting you.
Go on, mate. No, that's fine.
As I said to you, Billy, loads of times, and you probably can't count the amount of times I said it to you. Is it not the place of the older generation, the older fan? If they do something like that, I know it's probably easier said than done, but
Oh, he's gone off. But
50, 40 or 50-year-olds, you know,
yeah,
what sort
that
of
makes it
people?
worse.
That makes
Terrible.
it 10 times worse.
Yeah.
They're not kids.
yeah, but I don't think.
They're not kids.
I was just going to say, I
Go
don't
on,
think
sir.
it should be down to the older generation to say anything. I think it
Yeah.
should be down to, you know, who everyone should be saying stuff, whether it's kids or anything.
Yeah. And,
Oh,
and
it's-
I,
It's sad.
It's just
It's sad.
Look, I
Sad.
still remember when. Pardon me. So, I still remember when, in all seriousness, when the plane went down, and I still remember when Cardiff originally agreed to fee with Emiliano Sala, and then within however long it was, a day or 2 or 3 days or whatever the case was, when the plane's gone down, I'm not going to lie and say, yeah, I was such a big fan of Emiliano Sala before, but I remember taking real good notice of that case because at the time, I'm pretty sure him and I were at the same age. And I was thinking to myself, geez, there's a guy out there who's just probably cracked his dream of becoming a Premier League player, even though Cardiff at the time, we all know that they got relegated that season and they weren't any good. But a guy who's in his mid-20s at the time, his life perishing. And I remember consistently refreshing my news feed on certain websites to keep up to date with the case, because it's a tragedy. I mean, if someone dies in an accident anywhere else around the world, it's still a tragedy. So I don't know why I didn't know the person. I wasn't informed of his career beforehand, but that death really struck me as, it kind of upset me. And
Yeah.
for a bunch of fans, if it's the Nice fans, to sit there and give someone shit about someone passing away, especially someone who was, 24, 25, 26, you really got to take a good look at yourself, man, because that's disgusting. That type of behavior, I'm not a school teacher. I'm not sitting here in any sort of authoritative power to it's just, how can you stoop to such low to hammer the opposition team for something like that? Or football in general, if you're going to be saying bad things about not being able to swim for a person who passed away, and a young person who had his whole life ahead of him, disregard the football. It's not just about football. This guy had his whole life ahead of him, and I still remember when that happened. It saddened me a lot, and for these people to say that shit is really disgusting.
And the thing is, Rob, we all know somebody who may be a good friend or a friend of a friend of a friend. Anyway, we all know somebody who has died young tragically. We all do. And we all know how we felt when we heard the news. And we were stomached, we were sick, we were upset, blah, blah, blah. And yet, as you say, for these people to make a chant out of somebody's pain and agony and hurt and somebody dying at a young age, there's seriously something psychologically wrong with them.
As to me, they're not even people. If to me, they're not people. If you're going to sing a chant, a derogatory chant about someone who's passed away, this isn't just about football, man. This is life, and this poor young man. It's not right on any level. It's not funny. You're not impressing anyone by singing a chant to act cool because your team's playing against that other team. It's disgusting. And that's why it should be stamped out.
And that's why, Rob, that these chants for Hillsborough, Munich, Ibrox, they have to stop. Enough is enough. They're disgusting. They're hurtful. They're painful. There's no need. They have to stop now. And maybe somebody listening to this pod will go, do you know what? You're right. Fuck it. They have to stop. The next time I hear somebody chanting, that I'm going to stop them.
In banter, there's a line between banter where I could joke with Billy at this stage of the season, in the position we're in compared to Everton. Families or people's lives, it's just wrong. It shouldn't be in the game. It shouldn't be in people's mouths in the first place.
Yeah,
I can't connect to it on any sort of level to say I understand anything because what they're saying, because it's completely wrong. And it should be. It's hard because we can sit here and say it should be stamped out of football, but how are you going to stop? I really want to know the answer to this. How are you going to stop a crowd, thousands, hundreds, whatever the number of people is at that game from singing such a disgusting chant towards either another team that suffered a catastrophe or a player that lost his life? It's ridiculous that people are still doing this stuff in 2022.
My nephew started. We were on a boat coming over from Ireland for a Liverpool game, and there was United fans on it. And somebody said something to him about Hillsborough. Didn't quite. So he started saying something back about Munich. Well, I give him the biggest clip across the ear ever. And I
Good.
said, don't you ever do that again. And he said to me, he started it. And when I turned round, it was a Man United fan. He must have been in his 50s. And I says, you have more fucking sense. Will you cop on? You're worse. But I said to my
Yeah.
nephew, don't ever do that again in front of me.
Good, mate.
Yeah.
Good, because if someone says it to you, that doesn't give you a license to bring up something that's,
No, you're as
disastrous.
bad as
to
them,
anyone
then,
else.
aren't you? You're as bad as them.
Absolutely.
Right. You're
Absolutely.
lowering yourself
Absolutely.
to their standard. And
Yeah.
when like I said, you can give each other banter about losing to the bottom team or not winning
Yeah.
the bloody Premier League. Bill could sit here and laugh at us in a couple of weeks. That's fine. We can all take
Yeah.
it as a joke. Haha, it's football banter. But when you go into the bloody stage of, talking about lives on the, it's just wrong, mate. And I don't know. Look, I can only speak from where I'm from. It's not even accepted here. People think they're cool or they're going to say shit like that at a soccer match or a footy game. It's wrong, mate. I don't stand with it. It's wrong. And
No.
to me, those people have they need to not just have a good, hard look at themselves. They need some professional help, because if you're saying shit like that just to fit in or to be cool, you're not cool. You're not fitting in. You're on your own and you're an idiot.
Well, there's no place for it in football or society, really, is there?
No, it has to stop.
I think that I think we need to move on from that now. And what are we going to talk about, Tris? What was the other thing on the agenda,
I
mate?
think that was it, mate. I can't remember anything. Can you
Oh, right, okay.
I can't think of anything else. I think that was the big one. Not unless.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, we can go over it, but it's just nonsense, isn't it? It's just terrible sort of people who do that sort of thing.
We're all people here. We all have an opinion on things, but
I'm not
us
sure.
five that are in.
Are we all people? I'm not sure about Seamus and Batter. I do wonder about those two.
They could be a pair of leprechauns, them two.
Definitely.
They might be people.
You'll never hear one of us. I
No.
know you like well enough now. You'd never hear one of us say that. So why should other people? We can all have a laugh, but it's wrong. So, like Billy, I agree. Let's move on. If you want to,
Can I
preview
just
the
say that
weekend.
the last game I actually went to. The last game I went to was a derby, and the vile chanting between Liverpool and Everton supporters. I swore I'd never go to a game again, and I haven't. I haven't been to a game in nearly 10 years now, because what I witnessed at Goodison Park 9 years ago, maybe a bit more than 9 years ago, I said I'd never go to a football game again. And
Really, Billy?
I haven't, Barry, no. I think I told you that.
You
I haven't
did,
been,
man.
I haven't been to a professional football game for nearly 9 years now, after being a season ticket holder at Goodison. And the wild chanting between the two sets of supporters really upset me. And I swore I'd never go to another game again. And that's two rivals who live in the same. Got to the stage where I actually said, I will never go to another game, and I haven't been. That's how it affected me.
I remember watching the match of the day, the grandstand, the build up to the '86 Cup final, and the camera was showing Wembley Way, and you just seen everybody blue and red, everybody mixed, and it was brilliant. I was very proud of the club, very proud of the city that two big rival fans could go to a game and side by side, but that's all gone, Billy.
I was in the Liverpool end in a blue scarf and an Everton shirt, surrounded by Liverpool fans, and Gary Lineker scored, and I was up in the air cheering, never thinking or expecting that someone would throw a punch at me, or they were all just laughing at me or cheering. And it was something that I didn't expect anyway. I just never expected it to happen. But when I went there to Goodison Park, as I say, 9.5 years ago, it just it broke me out. The people who live in the same city, who grieve together, and I just haven't. And that might just be me, you know. And
No, mate,
but
it's not.
I was finished with football interest. You know what I mean?
I
Thank
know
you too, Billy.
I know exactly what you mean. The last derby I went to was the worst game I've ever been to. Not in terms of the football, because you didn't see it. You spent your entire time covering yourself from spit and stuff like that. It was horrible. It was the worst thing I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
I know it's for
And
sure.
I used to, you know, and I mean, I've gone to quite a few games, like with my cousins and that, you know, at Everton, and they've been to games with me at Anfield. It's like you don't think anything of it. I mean, especially someone like me. I mean, I've grown up. My uncle was best mates with Howard Kendall and that. So you know, we used to go see both teams. You know what I mean? He used to play. You know, his actual best mate was Gary Speed. Like, so we used to go. I used to play golf. Well, I used to caddy because I hate golf. I wouldn't play it, so I just used to caddy just so I could chat with him. And he used to give us tickets for the games and that, and try and fob me off with shirts, which I wouldn't take off him because they were Everton like and that. You know, but like. You know, but there was no thought that it was like, you know, that you see them in the street and you know you can be friendly with them. Why is it when they get in the ground, it turns, and it's not just the Everton fans, it is the Liverpool fans as well. Both sets of fans have turned into nasty
Both
bastards
sets
when
it
they
was,
get in the,
Tris.
yeah,
It was
well,
both sets.
the minute
yeah.
they get in the ground together, they use, you know, they're best mates. They'll drink in the same pubs before the game and that, and then they get in the ground and they're abusing each other. And you're thinking, what is wrong with you? Why would you do
They
that?
turn into monsters. They turn into monsters. They really do, and it's so upsetting. It upset me. I must admit, I was very upset. And as I say, I made a vow not to go, and I've kept to that. And I still watch Everton. I watch Liverpool. Watch them all the time, and I still love the city and I love the supporters, you know. But as far as going to a game, I'm finished with it, mate. I really am.
That's very sad for you, Billy. It's terrible to hear.
It is, Barry, but you know
It
what?
is.
You've got to make a stand, and you've got to make a decision and say that's not for me. You know what I mean? I don't like nastiness. I don't like things like that. You know what I mean? Going back to the salad thing, you know, I'd take umbrage with the person who said that. If they said it in front of me, I'd take umbrage with an Everton supporter if he said anything about, you know, Hillsborough or Ice. You know, I don't like that. There's no need for that. And, you know, it really got to me that, and it still hurts me now to think that people could be so nasty to each other. And as I say, it's just not for me at the moment, like football. It might change in the future when we get our new stadium. I might go, but I haven't been for a long, long time now.
Do you think moving forward, though?
Go on, Rob. Mate.
Sorry, Bill. Do you think moving forward? Like, I can't speak a lot. I've never even stepped foot out the country. I've never been to England, let alone. It's my dream one day to go there and experience something like that. But when you fellas tell me stuff like this, it's like, what are you going there for? You know, if I'm traveling and making the trip of a lifetime to go to Anfield to watch Liverpool, whether it be a derby or whether it be an important game, what am I going there for? Am I going there to get spit on? Am I going there to get sworn at? I mean, moving forward, if this shit's happening now, all these years, all these years leading up, what's it going to be like later? Is it going to be better or is it going to be worse? Are things going to change? Are things going to get better? Is there going to be something in there? You know what I mean? Moving forward, you know, when I have kids, I want to get them into Liverpool, and I want to, you know, that's what I'd love to watch games with my kids, but if they ever want to make the trek in 10, 15, 20 years or so, is it going to be the viable place for me to, you know, go to or send them or whatever the case is to watch the game? Because the last thing I want to do is this to continue or to get worse. And
it goes in phases, you know, Rob. It goes in phases. You obviously were only born in the 80s, but late 70s, early 80s, football violence at grounds was absolutely horrendous. It was a living nightmare to go to places like Middlesbrough and Newcastle and even the London clubs. You know, it was a terrifying experience for me when I went to them places. And then it died down late 80s. It started to get a lot better. And and it went through a phase where it wasn't as bad, and then since the year 2000, I'd say it's got worse.
Social media, Billy.
Go on.
No, social
Sorry.
media.
Yeah, very much so. I blame that. I must admit.
Yeah.
I blame that.
Keyboard warriors who could be
Yeah.
mightn't even be in the same continent are slagging
Yeah.
off a team that when they do meet, when the rival fans do meet, even though there might never be history of violence or aggression, but somebody could be throwing out these posts on social media calling them all sorts of names, that when they do meet, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
is there
it's not a nice subject to broach, to be honest with you.
is there any solution moving forward?
I don't think there is at the moment. I don't think there is at the moment. But hopefully that'll change. What do you think, Trish? What's your view on how football is at the moment?
Like I said, it seems to be regressing. And it's not. I mean, it isn't just football though. You only have to look at all these right wing marches everywhere and stuff in the UK and that. It's the world in general is in a mess. It's getting worse. People like Trump and Boris Johnson getting into power. It just says it all, really, doesn't it? You can't expect people to be. You can't expect people to behave well when they see these knobheads acting up all the time. They're the example they're setting. You know what I mean? They're following these people because that's what they think's the right thing to do.
Yeah. It's very sad. It's very sad. I'd love the days to come back where, my dad used to go to football games with Liverpool and Everton. He used to only go to away games. And they'd go and play football in the park against, say they were playing Burnley or they were playing Arsenal. And they'd have a game of football and then go to the game together, I know it sounds like utopia now, but that's what used to happen years ago. Yeah, it wasn't about fighting. It was about having a good time, going for a day out, having a drink, and meeting up. And, it's a sad world we live in, I'm afraid. And football's at the heart of it, where nastiness is concerned. So I'm better off out of it, to be honest with you, football at the moment. But I still love watching the game. I still love the game. But as a fan, I'm not a fan no more of the actual game.
But
and the way it's going,
At least you've experienced the good times. Just feel sorry.
Yeah, I did,
Seamus
absolutely.
Seamus.
I was there in the good times, yeah.
They never get to see it.
Yeah, it's not as nice as people make out, but the game is still a great game, and hopefully it'll change, and and the game will get better, and society will get better and be a lot more tolerant. Hopefully racism will end with football, which causes a lot of problems, and there's a lot of things like that. We've got to hope that it comes good. That's all I can say, anyway.
Right, tell Deirdre to wait outside.
Okay, David, he'll wait outside then.
Yeah,
did you get that, David? The Zip will be going next.
Oh no, we're not doing Zippergate again, are we?
Well, it was you, and we just did, yeah. Oh, who the hell's David anyway that you're waiting outside for? Is this because you started a fight? Is this what it is? Is this I'll take it. Outside. We'll sort it out in the car park. Is that what you're doing?
No, it's not. It's not David. It's Deirdre. I'm telling my little one to hurry up. The coach has come to pick her up for football.
Seamus says there's a mute. Just remember.
The Arsenal Spurs game. For a nice little drink.
Nice one, Billy. Enjoy,
Billy.
A nice little night. Watching football on the telly. So, listen, boys, I'm going to love you and leave you. And thanks very much for appearing this week. And hopefully next week we'll have another good session talking.
Yeah, we'll call it there then. See you all next Thursday.
You can,
Okay,
Yeah,
see you all
Thursday.
next Thursday.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye.
boys. Thanks a lot. Ta-ra now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Bazza. Go and sort it out in the car park.
Okay, love to everybody. Take care, lads.
Thank you.
Bye, Rob. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, lads.